What is going on, guys and girls? Welcome to Precipice, a brand new game that is so brand new, in fact, that it's not even been released yet. I've received a preview copy by the Indie Bros on behalf of Little Red Dog Games, who are the developers of Precipice. Now, the game itself is supposed to be released on either April 26th, this is what it said in an email I received, or if you check the link that I've left in the description that brings you to the game's Steam store page, there it says the game will be released on May 1st. I'm not sure which one of those two release dates is correct, but either one, either way, I'll just wanted to mention it to you. Now, in addition to the to a link to the Steam page, there's also a link to Little Red Dog Games' YouTube channel in the description of this video, so you can check out the trailer for Precipice as well as some gameplay footage. But obviously, I'm gonna explain how the game works today in this video, and I will also obviously show off some gameplay. Now, you can see right here that this is beta, the version beta 0.7. I've been told that all the main features, all the basic content is already in the game at this point. All the developers are doing now is fixing bugs, as well as obviously tweaking the features. I mean, that's still possible, but nothing like new, like entirely new, is going to be added. And it doesn't even need to be added. The game is already a lot of fun. So what is it about? Basically, it's a Cold War game. It's playing during the Cold War. You have the superpowers of the USA and you have the USSR, and they're facing off against each other, and the goal is to gain influence points, or gain influence in the world, earn victory points this way, without causing a nuclear war. But I'll talk more about this once we actually get into the game. Now, one interesting gimmick about this game is that there's no humans. All countries are depicted by animals, as you can see here, that are in a way supposed to be well, the animals should have, or are supposed to have, some relation to the country. I'm not sure if that's always, if that always makes sense, if that's always the case, but I guess you can decide for yourself. Now, yeah, as you can see, there is, well, there's one map right now, the classic map. The reason is that I haven't really unlocked anything else. As you go on, as you actually win, and just play through, you unlock more maps, you unlock certain perks. We'll get into that a little bit later, and that kind of increases the replayability, because on a general surface level, you only have two nations you can choose from, two nations you can only play, either the USA or the Soviet Union. There's some options we can mess around with here. I'm not going to do that because it doesn't really mean anything to you. Here you see my history so far. I have played the tutorial successfully as the United States. You don't really get to choose another country. Then I played as the Soviet Union, and then twice as the USA, and 3 times I have caused a nuclear war. So this is actually quite difficult, as you can see. Now, I'm playing single player, by the way. Let's go back once more. I'm playing single player right now, obviously. I meant to actually stream this game. This game I thought would be perfect for stream. You will see why, because, well, I'll explain that later. But I'm so excited to share it with you that I couldn't wait to set up a stream, and so I'm just going to do it this way. Now, the developers have said that multiplayer is technically the core of their game, right? Obviously, I can't play multiplayer yet because the game isn't released, but still, single player itself is quite fun. So we'll be checking this out. Now, as I said, we're just gonna start here, and you will see the 2 nations we can choose, either the American Eagle or the Soviet Bear. And I'm gonna go with the Americans right now. It doesn't actually matter. The core features are the same, whether you play the Soviets or the Americans. Doesn't actually matter. But I'm just more familiar with the US, so I'm just gonna go with them. Now, this is something I mentioned earlier here. The more you play, the more perks you unlock, and they just help you in your game. I honestly don't really know too much about like which of these are useful. I'm just gonna pick them, you know, based on like a roleplay experience, where I think like Canada is super important to us. We don't want the USSR messing with them. Then I think Israel is very important, so we're gonna have a collaboration with the Mossad. And then lastly, I think Turkey is obviously super important, but I think South Korea is very, very strategically important, so we're going to go with that as well. So I'm going to commit for now. Then, please pay close attention to the screen. This is not a war game. Both you and your rival possess the necessary firepower to annihilate each other with the push of a button. The path to victory will require diplomacy, subterfuge, misdirection, and a lot of bravery. And that actually sort of wraps up what this game is all about, because this is the great thing I love about this game. First of all, I gotta change one thing. Change the music. The music's always super loud, and the sound as well. But the cool thing about this game, what makes Precipice so interesting to me, is that there's no steamroll. You at no point, no matter how good you are or no matter how well you do, you're not gonna steamroll. It just doesn't happen, because there's always the chance of total nuclear annihilation, and you obviously don't want that to happen, because that means you will lose. That means you will definitely lose. So yeah, how can you win? You can win by acquiring victory points, and you do that through influence. So basically you see the victory points down here, and you have to reach a threshold. So for example, this is our threshold here, 18 victory points. If we reach 18 victory points, we will win. Or the other alternative, we reach the end of the game, which is turn 50, and whoever has the most victory points wins as well. So those are the two options we have. And yeah, you earn influence or victory points by influence, and you can have influence over certain regions. And for that, I'm going to show you a different map mode, because there's different map modes here as well. This just shows the loyalty in general. Blue, obviously the US is our country. Deep blue means very loyal, and then you have light blue, which is just loyal, and then you have the white, I guess, or gray or whatever, and they're just neutral. And obviously you have the red for the USSR. Now, these are the regions. We have NATO, as you can see here. We currently have a united front, which means we have a very, very high influence. So much so that we get a lot of victory points from them, but you can even just have a majority, which means that the USSR has some influence, but we still have more, obviously. So we have NATO, then we have the Arab League, we have Sub-Saharan region, we have South America, we have South Asia, we have East Asia, which interestingly also includes Australia. For some reason, there are a few nations that are part of neither group. So we have Israel, New Zealand, Ireland, Greenland, and Sweden and Finland, who are independent. They are still somewhat useful because you can get resources from them. So resources, there's 4 resources. You have oil, you have food, you have raw materials, and you have manufactured goods. All of them are important for trade and stuff like that, but we'll get into that when they actually matter. Then we also have stability map mode. Obviously deep green means very stable, but that's also indicated by these 4 balls that you see. 4 balls means super stable, 1 ball is unstable, and then obviously you have stages in between. Yeah, and then you can also have trade agreements. That is important, but we'll talk about that later on as well. Now, other than that, you have it's a turn-based game, obviously, and every turn you have 5 action points that are represented up here with the dollar stacks, and you can spend them on various activities. I'll go over that as soon as I've done explaining this thing here. And yeah, that's basically your main resource, but you also have troops. You have 7 armies that you can deploy across the world, and you have 3 spies that you can deploy as well and do certain things with. Now, important to note here is that you only have 3 spies, and your spies can be killed, and when a spy is killed, they're dead forever. You cannot get them back. Whereas with your army, if you lose soldiers in battle, for example, your troops will replenish over time. So it's not that bad. But if you lose a spy, then that spy is gone forever. So you want to make sure that this doesn't actually happen. Now, as for armies, you can obviously invade other countries, you can station troops in ally lands and stuff like that. But one thing that may never happen is that the USSR and the US troops fight each other directly. That may never happen. So for example, if I was to station troops in Canada, the USSR could not invade Canada because I have troops there and they don't want to risk a open confrontation because that ends the game basically. Although I think in this particular game it's not even possible. So if I have station troops in West Germany cannot be invaded. So that's just as I mentioned. Yeah, other than that, I think we're gonna check out our own country because there's a few actions we can do in the United States, but it's not much. Basically, what we need to keep an eye on is domestic approval. So right now, most citizens support our decisions, and that is because our unrest is at only 1%. This is, I think, as low as it gets. Whereas it can go up to, I guess, 100%, at which point we also lose the game. Because then our country basically collapses and the enemy wins. Now, yeah, that's obviously a problem. We don't want to have that happen. Basically, the only way unrest really increases is if we either escalate conflicts a lot of time, or if we're actually in war for a prolonged period of time. That increases unrest. I'm not sure if it can go down. Maybe not. I don't actually know. Now, the other thing you can do at home is you can invest money in your space race, and that can give you bonuses. For example, if we have a satellite, that will make it easier to find out enemy spy activities, and if we land on the moon, we actually gain 2 victory points, which is obviously a big deal. So yeah, it's worth it investing, but as you can see, it always costs 1 action point. So we can obviously spend 5 action points on that, but that means obviously we're not doing anything else, so we kind of need to be careful. Now, in this classic start, the classic map, the US has more allies, so we have more resources because you gain resources from allied countries. So for example, oil supply, we have oil, we produce oil ourselves, and I'm not quite sure if you're producing 3 oil and you 2 and you 1, that could be the way. I'm not quite sure how that works. But yeah, there's also obviously food. We do not provide food. We produce no raw materials, but manufactured goods, right? So that's kind of interesting. And if you have countries loyal to you, then you get their resources, basically. Okay, that's the explanation. And then obviously there are trade agreements that will give you resources as well. Okay, good. I think that's pretty good. For now, we'll move forward, and I'm going to make some strategic decisions. I'm honestly gonna have to turn off the music. It's just so loud. It's so fucking loud. So anyway, let's turn it off for now. I might turn it back on a little bit later, but let's see what we can do. Now, we have this country right here, which is unstable, as is Somalia, as is Vietnam. So invading those countries or going for a coup could potentially prove beneficial. Now, let me see what we can do. Let me see. We have South Asia. We have a majority here. Let's send for an A. Actually, I don't know. Let's do what? I'm unsure. Now, here, I'm waiting. I know I should just show you something, but I have played this 3 times already, and I guess I was too aggressive in the beginning, and so it led to nuclear war very quickly. So I want to try and not do that. So I guess, you know what, here's the thing. What is important to us? What is important to us? I think maybe Mexico could be important to us, right? This will be, they already like us, so we'll try and make them like us even more. So let's see what we can do here. We can increase diplomacy and make them like us more. So we'll do that. We'll spend 1 action point on that. And of course, my friend, that was apparently successful. I'm going to stop doing that, and I will focus on another country instead. So I could see ourselves maybe deploying agents here in Sudan, because this is already quite unstable. So we could fund an insurgency, 50% chance of success, 50% chance of us being found out. Now, I could do that, but I'm actually not going to do this because right now the country's already very unstable, so we don't need to fund insurgencies. Instead, we can immediately start a coup. We can't do this right now because for a coup you need 3 action points. We only have 2 left. So I'm gonna just send my agents there, and we'll do that next time. And then I think I'm gonna be sending I'll be sending troops to West Germany, station troops here, and then with 1 action point, I'm actually going to invest in a space race. And we already made 11% progress. Very good. This is all the action points spent, and we'll be moving on to the next turn. Okay, so the Soviets have stationed troops in East Germany. Okay, interesting move. They have probably deployed an agent somewhere, and they have they've destabilized Iran. So this is obviously a problem. Okay, so here we're gonna attempt a coup, except no, that's not very useful. So you can see there's a reason why this isn't going to be super useful, because the surrounding nations are Soviet controlled, so that contributes. So instead, what we should do is probably, okay, so I see. So that was probably a bad place to go first. Should go somewhere else instead. Okay, now I'm going to deploy some troops here, just so that South Korea is protected. I will also infiltrate the KGB, so we see where their agents are. They have their agents in Asia and somewhere here. Can we see this again? Okay, so they have their agents somewhere in East Asia and somewhere in Europe. Let me check this again. Okay, now what we can do is we can counter spy. I'm just gonna try and counter spy here. Now, if we're successful, so this is gonna cost 2 actions. If there is a spy here, we can kill him. There was no spy here. Okay, so I just wasted this technically, but it could have been really good. We could have killed the enemy. So yeah, this wasn't super useful. Sending my agents here. I think I'm gonna withdraw, and instead we could invade, but I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I will probably improve our space race again. Just invest in that. Okay. And there's some news we can check as well. Recession anticipated. Supreme Court nominates Legal Eagle. Okay. Eagle-eyed pedestrian saves baby. Okay. Nice. Okay, so the USSR is stationing troops and giving foreign aid. Okay. And they have signed a trade deal with Chile. Okay. Good. Any new news? No. Okay. It's just the same. Good. So what do we do next? I'm thinking about... Probably going to station troops in Canada. And let's improve relations with Mexico. That was not successful. And then I think I want to deploy my agents in Angola, and we'll fund an insurgency. That was not successful. Okay. But that's all of our things, so we'll move on. Okay, I'm not quite sure what happened. But the Soviets are improving relations. The Soviet Union has invaded the sovereign nation of Latin America. So obviously there's several countries here, but they're grouped together into one. How do we wish to respond? Now, okay, so they're attacking in the Americas, which is super, super important. It's very close to us. I think we're going to definitely protest in a diplomatic note. Now, we could obviously choose to ignore this, which would be entirely stupid. We're going to protest, and now the USSR gets to respond. Now, I think that might already raise our unrest, I'm not sure. But so here's what happened. The Soviet Union has issued a march with manufactured justifications for actions that are destabilizing international peace and security. So now we can back down, and when we do, we actually lose support with Ireland and Afghanistan. So it's just random countries most of the time. So as this escalates, as you can see here, right? This is the escalation meter. If we reach the point, this is nuclear war. This is something we definitely want to avoid. But we still want to press this issue a little bit. But the more we press it, the more escalated conflict gets. The more nations we will lose influence with if we eventually back down. So you kind of have to think about this. But since Latin America is super important to us, I'm going to present the case to the United Nations. Okay, so the Soviet Union has plainly stated that it will not be bullied by the United States in the United Nations or anywhere else. Showing weakness, okay, we're going to threaten military intervention. And, okay, the Soviet Union has gone to DEFCON 3. They are fueling ICBMs in preparation for war. Okay, this is a big deal. We're going to lose a lot of interest. I'm going to have to ready the nuclear missiles. And that's it. That's already over. Conflict escalated. And, that was that. Yeah. Nuclear war has broken out between the two superpowers. Nobody survives radiation, global cooling. Our legacy is irrelevant. Everything is lost. Yeah. So that's fun. I have never really gotten further than that. But yeah, interesting. So that's Precipice for you. I'll probably be showing more of this game, but just so that you get an idea. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.